Alert to tell you about from California's Attorney General urging consumers to delete their genetic data from their 23andMe accounts. The reason: the company has won approval to sell customers' data after it filed for bankruptcy. The process is fairly simple. I just did it a few hours ago. All you have to do is log on, go to settings, scroll to 23andMe data, click view, download your data if you want a copy, scroll to delete data, that's all the way on the bottom, click permanently delete, and then confirm the request that will be emailed to you. Now, with us to discuss the legal concerns about the privacy for millions of Americans is Senior Policy Counsel for the ACLU's National Policy Advocacy Department, Cody Venzke. Cody, good morning.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Of course. For the millions of customers that have submitted their DNA to this company, what could potentially happen if their data is sold?
I think the biggest concern is the fact that you don't know where your data is going to be headed to next. 23andMe is engaged in bankruptcy proceedings where it is currently taking bids to sell off its assets, including your genetic information. From there, it will go to the highest bidder, and you don't know at this point how it might be used, for what purposes it might be used, how it will be protected, or what rights that buyer is going to afford people to protect their data.
Speaking more broadly, how is the transferring of people's DNA fair, even allowable? What concerns are there? I did give my DNA to this company. I'm not alone. What should I be worried about?
Well, I think one of the big things is the fact that your genetic data is literally at the core of who you are. It can reveal health conditions, including ones you may not know about. It can reveal your ancestry and who you're related to, and it might be used to identify you or your family members without your consent, as we've seen previously. And consequently, it's very important that that information be protected, that not be misused in ways that you didn't sign up for, that it be protected from cyber breaches. Because unlike other sensitive information like your bank account or your social security number, which we definitely would not want to be sold in a bankruptcy proceeding, you can't change your genetic information. Once it's lost, it is lost, and you can't recover that.
If 23andMe is sold to another company, what safety measures are in place to ensure potentially sold DNA is not used in nefarious ways? That was a concern for me. Are there any rights for people to safeguard their information?
Unfortunately, at this point, very little. As you know well, there's no federal comprehensive privacy law. States are passing some, but they often permit this type of sale through a merger, acquisition, or bankruptcy. Some of those laws require that the buyer continue to provide the rights that were promised to you when you gave the data, and that's a good thing, but we would love to see those protections extended to everyone. There are a handful of genetic privacy laws out there in other states, including at the federal level, but they're usually pretty narrow. For example, a federal law protects you from discrimination against you based on your genetic information, but only applies to employers and health insurance. Nothing is going to stop, for example, a life insurance company from buying your data and using it to make decisions about your premiums.
All right. NewsNation spoke with a genetic genealogist about how the potential sale of 23andMe's database could put people's DNA data at risk. This is what she said.
We're really going to have to watch and see who ends up with that database, and that's going to determine what kind of access is allowed, whether they will continue to bar law enforcement. But even if they do and they decide to allow uploads to further increase that database, they could be vulnerable to law enforcement using it.
Cody, your reaction to law enforcement having access to people's DNA without their permission?
I think the basic foundational principle in this country is come back with a warrant. It's enshrined in the Fourth Amendment for a reason. And when we give our data, whether it be genetic information, our financial information, or our emails and text messages, we expect it to be protected. We expect law enforcement to follow the Constitution and obtain a warrant to conduct legitimate law enforcement investigations.
Lawmakers are advising people to delete their genetic data from the site. We showed viewers how to do that a moment ago. How important is it for people to protect this data? And at the end of the day, does it really matter?
It absolutely matters because, as I said before, your genetic information cannot be changed and it reveals all sorts of things about you. And it's important that people protect not just their genetic information, but all sorts of information from their finances to their browsing history, because what we've seen is everything is interconnected and it's all being pulled together, either to profile you for advertising or perhaps in law enforcement proceedings or other purposes we may not know about. I'm really glad that you shared the steps here because, as you noted, you have to scroll all the way to the bottom to find those settings. sometimes they can be a bit buried.
All right.
Thanks for watching. Go to joinnn.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.